So we are going to stay in UCC now, and our next speaker is Laura Lee. Her colleague Brian Butler unfortunately wasn't able to join us today. So Laura is going to talk about universal design for learning encourages assessment by design, but what exactly does this mean for educators? Laura, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Terry. I'll just get my slides up there now. Can you see those?
Yes, absolutely.
Lovely, thank you. So hello everyone from a very beautiful sunny Cork. I hope the sun is shining wherever you are. As Terry has said, my own name is Laura Lee. I work as the research manager in the Centre for the Integration of Research, Teaching and Learning, the Teaching and Learning Centre in UCC, and I'm presenting on behalf of myself and my colleague, Dr. Brian Butler today. As Terry mentioned, unfortunately, he can't join us today. So since 2018, myself and Brian have been coordinating and running the Digital Badge in Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, here in UCC. Our thanks as always, of course, to our colleagues in AHEAD, UCD, and of course the Forum for their support to us in enabling us to do this. In our presentation today, what we're hoping to do very briefly is to outline some of the impact that the Digital Badge in UDL is having on the teaching, learning and assessment practices of our staff here in UCC. So to date, 93 of our staff have completed the Digital Badge in UDL. And as part of that badge, our staff are required to modify an aspect or aspects of their teaching, learning and assessment practice. So over the years, I suppose a good number of our participants have made modifications to their practice that have a direct impact on assessment, and that is kind of our focus here today. So we've seen that the badge can be a hugely powerful tool in allowing staff to reflect on their curriculum through the prism of the UDL lenses. And I'm kind of repeating some of what Frederick said in his presentation, but the key questions that staff are prompted, having come through the UDL badge, to reflect on are: what is my assessment actually measuring, and how is this assessment actually aligned to the learning outcomes or goals of this module that I'm teaching? And we've seen that the badge has afforded colleagues the opportunity to reflect on the design of their assessment, to view the curriculum in perhaps a more kind of fulsome, holistic sense, and indeed to recognise the overlapping nature of the UDL principles, where changes made in line with one principle can have a direct impact on another. So for the purposes of the presentation today, I'm going to focus and share on one case study taken from the Digital Badge in UDL. So in this case study, Dr. Harriet Shellikens shares the modifications she made to her teaching and learning and assessment practices as a result of her learning on the UDL badge. So for her case study, Harriet documented changes made to a third-year neuroscience module that focuses on the anatomy of the human central nervous system. Students find this module really, really difficult, and Harriet has even published research indicating that students really struggle with the module because of the inherent complex nature of the topic rather than more extrinsic outside influences. Harriet has taught this module for a number of years and is a really engaged, dedicated educator, and has made numerous modifications to her teaching practice over the years based on student feedback. So having taken the UDL badge, Harriet set out to make further specific modifications to her practice in light of what she had learned on the badge. So she noted that while multiple means of representation was already a feature of this module, she noted that students had fed back to her that they felt contributed to the so-called heaviness of the module due to the inherent complexity of the content. They felt that they were encountering huge volumes of information, of material, rather than understanding that this was the content simply being presented in different formats. And so to counter this, Harriet implemented a very explicit explanation of multiple means of representation and explained that these different formats are simply different options to engage with the material at different levels. In addition, Harriet clarified that specifically in neuroanatomy, the use of different terms for the same structures may be used, providing options for language. Thirdly, to provide better options for comprehension, she emphasised key topics on which the class would build and revise as a means to give structure to students' learning and to highlight patterns, critical structures and relationships between different concepts. Finally, Harriet also introduced an alteration to the assessment within the module by introducing a presentation to peers as part of the assessment. So the topic for each student was pre-assigned and had clear defined objectives, but design of the presentation offered choice to how that objective could be reached. So how did all these changes go? Well, Harriet herself noted that the different continuous assessments gave the students a wide range of opportunities to engage with the material in preparation, as well as the opportunity to be assessed in different ways. Student feedback on the presentation was really, really positive. Students reported that it was very helpful to have multiple format types of assessment. The presentation as assessment allowed for greater and more in-depth engagement with the material. Students crucially enjoyed doing the presentation, and also presenting the topic in front of the peer group allowed for an additional opportunity to engage with the material in group format. So as I said, to date, 93 staff have completed the digital badge in UDL here in UCC, with each providing a case study of how UDL has beneficially impacted their teaching, learning and assessment practices. We hope over the years there'll be no getting rid of us to share more of these case studies with you, and hope that you've enjoyed hearing about the impact that UDL and the digital badge is having here in UCC. Thank you so much for your attention.
Laura, bang on time. Perfect. Well done. Thank you very much. Chucky's very happy.
You're welcome, Sarah. I told you I've been practicing.
Absolutely. And very clear. I think that the message for me very clear is one is to congratulate UCC on its commitment to UDL and the work that you're putting in with staff to have nearly 100 staff already through the badge. I think it's absolutely super. And the other message I think that came across from the exemplar that you had was the importance of making sure that students know what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and engaged, and they should be active partners in the design of what you're doing. I think that's something that comes out really, really strongly. I'm interested in the student feedback from their interpretation that all of this was extra material. Is that something that students feel when they don't understand, you know, all these different formats and they think it's just more stuff I have to go through?
Yeah, I think, Terry, you know, I thought it was a really interesting point in Harriet's case study, and I admired how open she was in sharing that this was her experience. You know, I think it just needs to, it really speaks to the need to be explicit in all your communication in terms of your teaching. You know, I think it was the case here that students thought that, you know, there was just a huge volume of material and didn't necessarily understand that, you know, they could engage in the material presented in one format and then didn't necessarily have to engage in everything else. You know, there was choice there, and that element of choice went to miss. And, you know, the feedback to Harriet indicated that she really needed to be really explicit in it. And, you know, I think it's just, you know, it's a useful example of how we take so much for granted. This is a topic we talk about a lot with our colleagues when we run the badge here. You know, things make sense to us and don't necessarily make sense to our students, to our colleagues. And so it's just been a really, I think, important learning point for myself and also for the colleagues who've gone through the badge. And I just hope, you know, in the work that myself and Siobhan are doing in relation to the inclusive assessment professional development offering, that having examples, you know, of how colleagues have made these changes, the challenges they've encountered along the way. You know, doing this work isn't easy. So to have real life examples, again, across the different disciplines, we just hope is going to be really helpful for colleagues. But the badge has been a wonderful springboard for our colleagues who have been so engaged. You know, we thought with everything going on in the last 2 years that maybe there might be a drop off in people, you know, engaging, and actually we've seen the opposite. It's been incredible. You know, our staff are just so committed to really trying to do the best for our students. So it's been. And
can I ask, is it across all this? Is there the same interest across all disciplines?
Yeah, we've had a really broad range of interest, Terry, and actually, as you are probably well aware, in UCC we take a broad view of what we count as teaching. So how we We encourage staff to participate in the badge if they support student learning. That's how we phrase it. So we've had colleagues from the library, from careers, all manners of different services across the university come and take the badge. We've had people from purely research backgrounds who do a lot of outreach and communication, and they have had enormous benefit from taking the badge because the principles are so wide-reaching. You know, it can absolutely be applied to all aspects of university life. So we've been delighted to see a really, really broad range of interest.
Okay, so there's a question here. Is it possible to get these UCC examples ourselves, or are they text or video or both? And could they be shared as a resource in the national rollout of the UDL badge? So,
of course, Dara, let's chat offline about it. We'd be more than happy. We're actually in the process of creating what we hope will be some lovely videos where staff are going to chat through what they've done, but we also have the text-based examples as well from the UDL badge, and of course, more than happy to share.
Right, and can I ask one other question? Has the fact that you've got that many staff gone through the badge, has it started to change the conversations on the ground within some of the departments within which they're situated? You know, are they beginning to influence the thinking in terms of teaching, curriculum design at those conversations in departments?
I think, you know, there's a lot of work happening, Terry, across UCC, and I mean, as we're all well aware, nationally, internationally, in terms of enhancing all aspects of university life to be more inclusive, including teaching, learning, practice. I think off the back of the 2 years that we've just gone through, there has never been a more opportune moment to think about how to enhance our practices to be more inclusive. So I certainly feel in UCC that colleagues have a really high level of interest and enthusiasm. What we've seen is that they do need targeted supports in order to achieve the work that they want to do. You know, time, resources are always an issue. So, you know, again, as Siobhan highlighted, you know, it's out of the experience of the badge that we're creating the professional development offering around inclusive assessment under CIRTL 2020. You know, there was direct feedback that led us to this professional development offering. So yeah, Terry, I really do feel, I know I'm biased, but you know, I really do feel like, as I said, there's such a continued high level of interest in UDL and different offerings that we've engaged in. I did some work, joint efforts between UCC and MTU around, we've provided kind of joint workshops around utilising the UDL principles to enhance autism awareness. And again, phenomenal interest in that, with people really finding it very beneficial. So there's great enthusiasm, and we're just kind of trying to ride the wave and get people as far along as we can with it.
And I have to congratulate you. Absolutely, really powerful work from UCC, and great work for yourself and your teams there. And well done, and keep up the good work. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jerry.